and welcome to this edition of Culture Kids Storytime. Today I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about how we treat our environment. I don't know if your parents talk to you as much as we talk to our daughter, but we always try to talk about recycling, only using what you need, conserving water, and just doing our part to take care of the earth. So one thing I really like about this story is it really gives you a good idea of what can happen when you don't respect those scarce resources around you. And when we talk about scarcity, that means you don't have enough of something that you want. So a lot of times you may want, let's think about toys. You have lots and lots and lots of toys, but all of a sudden you're not really doing what you should do at home to take care of those toys. So slowly they start to break, they fall apart, and your parents say, you know what, I'm not buying you any more toys because you're not taking care of the ones that you have. So now you're in a scarce situation. You went from having an abundant amount or a lot of something, and now you don't have it as readily available as you once did. So now it's a scarce commodity or something that you can't get like you could before. So that is the same principle that applies to us and our natural resources. If we continue to use things the way that we do, they won't be there for us maybe in this lifetime as well as the next generation. So we have to do our part in order to make sure that we are recycling, we are only using what we need to, and conserving as much as possible. So that brings me to the story for today. It's called Why the Sky is Far Away. It's a Nigerian folktale, and it really gives you a good glimpse in terms of what can happen when you don't use the resources that nature gives you wisely. This story was retold by Mary-Joan Gerson, and the pictures are by Carla, Golembe. Let's check it out. In the beginning, the sky was very close to the earth. In that time, men and women did not have to sow crops and harvest them. They did not have to prepare soup and cook rice, and the children did not have to carry water from the stream or gather sticks for the fire. Anybody who was hungry just reached up, took a piece of the sky, and ate it. It was delicious too. Sometimes the sky tasted like meat stew, sometimes like roasted corn, and sometimes like ripe pineapple. There was very little work to do, so people just spent their time weaving beautiful cloth, carving handsome statues, and retelling tales of adventures. And there were always festivals to prepare for. The musicians practiced, the masked makers carved their masks in secret, and everywhere the children watched the preparations in wonder. The king of the land was called the Oba, and his court was magnificent. At the royal palace was a team of servants whose only work was to cut and shape the sky for ceremonies. But the sky was growing angry because people were wasteful. Most often they took more than they could possibly eat and threw the leftovers into garbage heaps. I'm tired of seeing myself soured and spoiled on every rubbish bin in the land, brooded the sky. So one morning at sunrise, the sky turned very dark. Thick black clouds covered over the Oba's palace, and a great voice boomed out from above. Oba, mighty one, your people have wasted my gifts. I am tired of seeing myself on heaps of garbage everywhere. I warn you, do not waste my gifts any longer, or they will no longer be yours. The Oba, in terror, sent messengers carrying the sky's warning to every corner of the land. In every village, people were told about the sky's unhappiness. The children were warned never to take a piece of sky unless they were truly hungry. People were very, very careful, that is, for a while. Then the time arrived for the greatest festival of the year. It was the festival that celebrated the power of the Oba. The most important palace dancers performed all through the night, and the Oba himself in ceremonial robes danced for his subjects. By the fifth day, there was rejoicing in every home and on every street. The Oba knew, though, that with the dancing and merriment, people might forget the sky's warning. So he made sure no one took more sky than he or she absolutely needed. Now, there was a woman in this kingdom who was never satisfied. She could barely move when she wore all the weighty coral necklaces her husband had bought her, but she still craved more necklaces. She had 11 children of her own, but she felt her house was empty. And most of all, Adis loved to eat. On the very last night of the celebration, Adis and her husband were invited to the Oba's palace. There they danced and ate well past midnight. What an evening it was, Adis thought later, standing in her own garden again. How I wish I could relive tonight. The drumming I heard, the riches I saw, the food I ate. She looked up at the sky and, hoping to taste again the cocoa yams and meat stew the sky had offered, she took a huge piece of sky to eat. She had only finished 1/3 of it when she could swallow no more. What have I done? Wailed Adis. I cannot throw this away! Otolo! She screamed, calling her husband. Come and finish this piece of sky for me! Her husband, exhausted from dancing all night and stuffed with the sky he had eaten at the Oba's palace, could only take 2 bites. Wake the children! She screamed. Now the children had spent all night at the masquerade party, and after their dinner, the most of them were still too full to even nibble at their mother's piece of sky. The neighbors were called, and the neighbors' neighbors were called, but Adis still held in her hand a big chunk of sky. What does it matter? She finally said. One more piece of sky on the rubbish heap. And just to make sure it didn't matter, she buried the leftover in the garbage bin at the back of her house. Suddenly the ground shook with thunder. Lightning creased the sky above the Oba's palace, but no rain fell. Oba, mighty one, boomed a voice from above. Your people have not treated me with respect. Now I will leave you and move far away. But what will we eat? Cried the Oba. How will we live? You must learn to plow the land and gather crops and hunt in the forest, answered the sky. Perhaps through your own labor, you will learn not to waste the gifts of nature. No one in the land slept very well that night. The rising sun uncovered the heads of men and women and children peering over rooftops and through windows, straining to see if the sky had really left them. It truly had. It had sailed upward far out of reach. From that day onward, men and women and children had to grow their own food. They tilled the land and planted crops and harvested them, and far above them rested the sky, distant and blue, just as it does today. This story is at least 500 years old. It was first told in Bini, the language of the Bini tribe of Nigeria, which has existed for more than 800 years. The Bini people live today along with many other tribes in what is now the country of Nigeria. How interesting it is that the Bini people long ago began teaching their children to respect the earth and sky. Today, we are very concerned about caring for our planet. We now see, as the wise Bini did then, that the future of nature and its gifts rest in our own hands. So with this story, you are being told what can happen if we don't respect our natural resources. So I hope next time you go into the fridge, you think about what is it that you're taking and why you're taking it out. That way, you're only taking what you need and conserving the natural resources that you should. Take care. Have a good one, guys.